Welcome to the Now and Future Parent. I'm your host, Sam Powers, and with me today is Eileen Radin, a parent education expert who has worked in the field for over 20 years. Eileen?
Thank you, Sam. In this series, we'll look at some of the primary issues parents face in raising their children. Parenting is a skill, but like any skill, it is acquired and can be developed and improved. The children on our program are 5-year-olds, but as we know, many of the ideas that apply to young children are applicable to children of any age. The subject of today's program is the importance of play. Play is a way children have of learning about their world, as well as promoting emotional, intellectual, and physical growth. Sam?
Thank you. Let's watch a scene now of a child at play and see how his parents respond to his actions. Think about what you would do if you were in this situation.
Dad, look, I'm a cowboy.
Hey, just stop it. Why don't you go get that new toy I bought you to play with?
Daddy tried to catch me.
Hey, just stop it. Don't you ever get tired?
No.
You just got back from your swimming lesson. Why don't you just sit down for a minute? Or why don't you go play with your toy?
But it's broken.
You broke that toy already? Why do you always break the things I buy you? The things I buy you are very expensive. Why can't you learn to take care of them? Why do you always have to go around running around and throwing things?
Oh, sweetheart. Here, sit down. Be a good boy, okay?
Gonzalo and Teresa were watching television. Their son Pedro was playing and making noise. This bothered them. They asked him to be quiet and settle down. Before we continue, think about the following questions. How did Gonzalo and Teresa's attitude towards Pedro playing affect his behavior? What would you do if you were in the same situation? Okay, let's start with the first question. How was Pedro affected by his parents' actions?
Well, obviously he was hurt. He didn't like that Gonzalo raised his voice.
Good.
He also didn't like that they told him to sit down, when it's apparent that what he wanted to do was to run around and be a kid.
Right. Good, good. Gonzalo? Teresa?
Well, it kind of seems like you guys are criticizing us for asking our child to settle down. I mean, we both have very exhausting days. We come home from work, we want to make dinner. After dinner, we just want to sit down and relax and have a little bit of quiet time.
The quiet time, yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't just let our kids run wild in the house and not tell them to be quiet just because we don't want to hurt their feelings, right?
No, sure. I agree that you can't let your kids control a house, but Gonzalo, you said earlier you had needs when you got home from work, the need to relax, to spend quiet time, whatever.
Right, yes, I did.
So don't you see that the kid has needs too? He needs to play. I mean, he is a kid. That's what kids do.
Good point. Eileen?
Well, yes, play is important to child development. There are different types of play, and each type satisfies specific needs. In this case, Pedro was being very physical, jumping and running around, and physical play helps children improve their motor skills and work off excess energy.
Well, we understand that physical activity is very important. That's why we take him to tennis lessons and swimming lessons and karate lessons. But isn't that enough?
Well, those are all very good activities for a child, and they're very important. But lessons are structured, and so children feel pressure to succeed. So they also need time for free and spontaneous play where they can play without worrying about making mistakes.
Good, good. Audience?
I mean, I don't mean to disagree with the expert, but how does this solve the very real problem of the kids running around the house all the time, making a lot of noise?
Good point.
How about this? Instead of getting angry and reacting, telling a kid to sit down, Maybe you could get up and play with Pedro.
We do. I guess we could do more, but Pedro just has so much more energy than we do.
What else could we do to keep kids from running and jumping in the house?
Well, we can clearly define where it's okay for them to run and jump and where it's not. I tell my kids it's okay to run around in the backyard, but not inside the house.
Good.
Suppose you don't have a yard. We live in an apartment. I can't just, send the kids outside to play in the evening or, what am I supposed to do?
Maybe some special time could be spent at a playground or a park, or encourage a milder form of physical activity. Some children like to build tents with sheets and crawl through the space, or build with blocks.
Sure. Gonzalo, Teresa, that makes sense. What do you think?
Well, the truth is, Pedro is a very physical kid, and he just wants to run around all the time. He doesn't want to play with his toys.
Well, again, whenever possible, take him outside to play where he can run and jump and climb. And once this need for physical activity is satisfied, it will be easier to engage him in quieter play in the house, where you can offer him books and puzzles and crayons. Normally active children are capable of engaging in quiet play as well.
Good. Comment.
Since we're talking about toys, I think it was wrong that you got angry at Pedro and just because his were broken. Remember, you're the one who got the toys, and maybe there's a more appropriate game or toy that Pedro can have.
These are very expensive toys. I just get him the kind of toys that I would have wanted when I was a kid.
You disagree, Teresa?
No, I don't disagree, because I know that Gonzalo wants to get Pedro the best toys, but maybe sometimes they're not the best toys.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I don't think that Pedro breaks his toys because he doesn't like them. It's just that he wants to take them apart and see how they work.
That's called breaking. Look, I can't afford to get Pedro a new toy every time he takes something apart.
Okay. I think broken toys are a common occurrence. Audience, what do you think can be done? Pedro breaks his toys. What can be done to fix that? What are some options?
I mean, I agree with Gonzalo. He's got a right to be angry. He can't keep buying new toys. Pedro's got to learn to take care of his things.
Gonzalo, not to criticize you or anything, but do you know how toys have different age levels on their boxes?
Yes, I do.
Are the recommended ages of the toys the same as Pedro's?
I have no idea. I just get him the kind of toys that I would have wanted when I was a kid.
Eileen?
Yeah, well, there's a reason for recommended ages for toys for children. A child may become frustrated with the toy that's too advanced for his level of maturity and may think of himself as incompetent and inadequate.
Pedro, it's not that he doesn't appreciate the toys, it's just that he's a very curious kid and he wants to take them apart. It's his nature to find out how they work.
He is a very curious kid.
Okay. Comment.
I give my kids broken objects, such as locks and a key set, and they have fun playing with that and taking that apart and figuring out how it works.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
Well, that's a great idea, and who knows, he may grow up to be an inventor or an engineer. But it's also important to remember that when our children are engaged in that type of activity, they should have supervision to prevent injury.
Okay, good point. Comment.
I mean, I guess I do see how getting the child the right kind of toy could help him slow him down a bit.
Mm-hmm. That's likely because an age-appropriate toy would probably keep his interest for a longer period of time. I'd like to share this thought with you. Remember that play should be encouraged as a pressure-free activity for self-discovery.
Okay, good point. Let's review now the important ideas we've discussed.
Which of the following choices could Gonzalo and Teresa make to to encourage Pedro's playing? A. They could tell Pedro running and jumping are outdoor activities, then help him decide on acceptable ways to play in the house. B. Gonzalo and Teresa could scold Pedro for breaking the toy and tell him he can't have any more toys. C. Gonzalo and Teresa could make sure the toys are appropriate for Pedro's level. D. Gonzalo and Teresa could play with Pedro. A, C, and D are appropriate choices Gonzalo and Teresa could have made. You may have additional good ideas as well. Letter B is not the best choice. Scolding or threatening Pedro for breaking the toy does not teach him how to play with it. He may not be ready for that type of toy.
Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section.
Number 1, encourage your children to follow their own interests and provide opportunities for various types of play. Number 2, make sure your children's toys are appropriate for their age level. Toys that aren't right for a child could be detrimental instead of beneficial. Number 3, don't overload your child with scheduled activities. Make sure you also allow a great deal of spontaneous playtime for your child.
Gonzalo, Teresa, would you like to go back in time and try the scene again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's watch and see what Gonzalo and Teresa do differently.
Look, Dad, I'm a cowboy.
Hey, we don't run and jump in the house. Hey, why don't you go get your blocks and then we'll build something?
But I'm a cowboy. Try to catch me.
I think somebody needs to go outside and play.
Come on, Dad.
All right, remember, we run outside, not inside.
Have fun.
Oh. Hey, want to go play with your blocks?
Yeah.
Be sure and show me what you built when you're done.
How did you feel?
I felt good. I was aware of Pedro's needs, and I think that that made Pedro feel good too.
And that's ultimately what's important. Now let's watch another scene. Think about what you would do if you were in this situation.
Rena, what are you doing?
I want just like you, Mommy.
No, you don't. You take this clothes off right now.
But I'm the mommy now, and you have to do what I say.
Rena, you don't tell me what to do. I am your mother. Now you be a good girl and go watch TV.
Rena tried on her mother's clothes, and Arzu became upset. Think about the following questions. What were Rena's intentions? How did Arzu's behavior affect Rena? What would you do if you were in this situation? What were Rena's intentions?
I think Rena just wanted to wear her mom's clothes and play mom for a while. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
I don't either. It seems that Rena has an active imagination, and she wanted to express it through dressing up as mom.
Good.
Isn't it true that we should let our kids' imagination fly?
Is it true? Yeah.
Let me just say one thing. I know that Rena has an active imagination, and I allow her the freedom to explore that in many different ways. But I don't think acting like an adult is very good for a kid.
I agree. I think there's something wrong with a 5-year-old wanting to dress or repress like an adult.
Okay, what do you think? Is it wrong for a 5-year-old child to want to dress like an adult?
I agree. I think that if Arzu plays along with Rena, that it might encourage her to grow up too quickly.
I agree, and isn't that the problem with today's children? They act like the adults. They see adults smoking, drinking, doing drugs, and even getting pregnant before they're ready.
I agree about that, but come on, I mean, what's wrong with the little play acting? I don't think that letting your daughter dress up as mom is going to make her lead her to doing drugs or getting pregnant.
Well, Eileen,
Yeah.
will it?
We're talking about play. Rena was engaging in dramatic play, which is an excellent way children have of developing their imagination as well as their social and language skills.
Okay, good comments?
I mean, but don't you think that Rena could take the role too seriously and want to act like an adult all the time?
Oh, no, not at all. Children use play to develop an understanding of their life experiences and events which affect them.
I think I understand that, but what about my clothes? Some of my clothes are very expensive, and I don't want Rena to ruin them.
Now, that's a good point. Sometimes children can't distinguish that they need to be extra careful with certain items.
Couldn't Arzu tell Rena which clothes she could put on and which ones that are not okay to put on?
That's a good point.
I keep a dress-up box for my child with some old clothes and other items for dramatic play.
Good idea.
Yes, in Arzu you could do that, and then you can even play along and assume the role of the child to Rena's role of mother. You might find out a lot about Rena's thinking and her reactions to things and have fun. You might also have a chance to see yourself as a mother through Rena's eyes.
What about the fact that Arzu told Rena to go watch TV?
Okay, now that's an interesting point. What do you think about television?
Well, I may be the only one who has this point of view, but I don't feel that all TV is bad. I mean, there are some good shows on TV, good shows for children, and I know my children benefit from them. So if Arzu was selective in what Rena watched, it would probably be okay.
But I can't be there all the time to make sure that my kids are watching only what's good for them. I mean, kids know how to change channels, too.
I don't think TV is good. There are a lot of very violent shows, and they're not appropriate for children.
Good point.
I mean, you guys are just anti-TV. Some shows are very educational.
What about some reading instead of watching TV?
Reading is good, but some TV is good too.
Okay, I think we're drifting a little bit from the point here. But it is true, TV is an issue. What do you think, Eileen?
Well, it is, but let's focus on how this relates to Arzu and Rena. First of all, I agree that there are some television shows that are educational and entertaining. But what's important here is that Rena wanted to play.
And TV is not playing.
Well, that's right, it isn't. Watching television is a passive activity, and it doesn't stimulate imagination and creativity the way playing does. And Rena didn't want to be passive and watch television.
So it's not okay for me to ask Rena to watch TV?
Well, I'm not saying we should never watch television. What I'm saying is that we need to be aware of our children's needs and interests. Rena showed a desire to express herself through play, and pushing her to watch television at that time could stifle her spontaneity and her creativity.
Okay, good point. Let's review now some of the important ideas we've discussed.
Which of the following choices would be appropriate for Arzu? Think about Rena's playing needs as you make your choices. A. Arzu could tell Rena that she will gladly let her be mommy for a while. B. Arzu could tell Rena that right now is not a good time, but she will watch television with her instead. C. Arzu could tell Rena that the clothes she picked to play mommy are very delicate, and if she changes clothes, she can play mommy for a while. D. Arzu could tell Rena that it's not right to act like an adult, but they can pretend to be other people instead. A and C are appropriate choices for Arazu. You may have additional good ideas as well. B is not the best choice. Watching television together is a good practice, but in this case, telling Rena to watch television sends a message that her ideas are unacceptable. D is also not the best choice. It is perfectly all right for Rena to pretend to be an adult while role-playing.
Let's summarize the key points from this section.
Number 1, role-playing allows children to test ideas and practice activities in the safety of make-believe. Plus, it improves language, cognitive, and social skills. Number 2, it's important that we don't impose on a child what we think she needs to do in play. We need to help and encourage the child to explore her own interests so that she may do her own learning. Number 3, television can cause a child to be passive because imagination and creativity are not being stimulated.
Fortunately, here we can go back in time. Arzu, would you like to show us what you would do differently?
I'd love to.
Rena, what are you doing?
I want to dress like you, Mommy.
You want to play Mommy and you want me to play Rena?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like fun. But first, let's change Mommy's clothes. So this coat is better for you because this shirt can tear easily. Okay, Mommy, let's play.
Okay, Rena. I want you to wear this one. Now comb your hair.
I'll be glad to, Mommy.
Arzu, did you feel any better?
Well, for one thing, I didn't get angry. And it was actually fun watching my daughter act like me. It was an eye-opener.
In what way?
Well, I saw how I could be a little bossy, but we laughed. We had a great time.
Play is instrumental in your child's development, and it should be encouraged, not discouraged.
Let's put together now the many ideas we've learned today.
Number 1, encourage your child to follow his own interest in play. Number 2, make sure your children's toys are appropriate for their age level. Number 3, provide time for free play as well as scheduled activities. Number 4, avoid substituting television for active play. Number 5, encourage your child to be creative and develop his imagination. These 5 points can be helpful in showing you that play is the essence of childhood. It is a child's vehicle for growth that allows him to explore the world around him as well as the adult world of which he will become a part. An excellent way to implement these new skills with your children is to keep a daily journal. You may want to write down the play activities your child enjoys and the ways you encourage play. Write down the ways you play with your child as well.
Thank you, Eileen. And thank you for joining us today. We look forward to working with you again on our next episode of The Now and Future Parent.